Hey folks, Jason here with another drum set lesson. In this video, I'm going to break down how to make a 6/8 blues, a slow 6/8 blues in this case, not boring. And this is a topic that came up in one of my lessons today with a student. They essentially said, whenever I play a 6/8 blues, it's creatively stifling. It feels limiting and it feels boring because I'm just keeping this same beat over and over again. Now, this is fine, and there are a lot of musical situations where you just sort of have to stick to the script and play that very basic part with no variations. But what I want to talk about today is how to develop your creativity and musicianship as a drummer by playing around with the kit and playing around with variations. And we're going to be covering two important concepts here. The first of these is the idea of ostinato versus melodic playing. And then the second idea is limb combinations to do this. So starting off, let's talk about what an ostinato is. This is basically just a repeating pattern, something that doesn't change throughout the course of a song, right? So if we're doing a 6/8 blues, it would be, for example, eighth notes on the hi-hat, downbeat on the snare, backbeat on beat 4 with a rim click. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty straightforward. We're not changing up anything. That's a motor that remains unchanged throughout the entirety of a phrase or even perhaps the whole song. But the other end of the spectrum is melodic playing, where rather than keeping a steady beat, I'm constantly creating movement by shifting not only the rhythmic interest, but the pitch, colors, and dynamics as I move around the kit. So I might start with an ostinato and then morph out into something more melodic as such. Something like that. Now, most playing I have found, at least in the settings that I play, is not an either or like what I just did. It's more of a seamless integration of both those elements. And a way that you can systematically practice at the kit with this concept is our next topic I want to cover, which is deciding which limbs are going to keep the ostinato, which limbs are going to go ahead and be melodic. And you can sort of deviate from this. So I'm going to start where I have two limbs designated to an ostinato pattern, again, something that doesn't change, and the other two limbs being responsible for the melodic variation. But as I build, I'm going to step out of that and have sort of all four limbs going back and forth between this and not being designated to a role. First step, though, as you practice, is to decide what two limbs are going to keep the ostinato and what two limbs are going to be melodic. So if we're doing a slow 6/8 blues, I might say, okay, I'm going to have my right hand and my left foot be the ostinato. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's not going to change. And I'm going to decide that my remaining two limbs, the left hand and the right foot, are going to create melodic variations and movements that provide variation while this part is staying rock steady. Right? So lots of things you can do there. And again, start simple, play with different rhythmic subdivisions. Are we kind of doing more of a triplet-based thing with the left hand and right foot to create melodic movement and variation? Or am I going to do more of a 16th note sort of thing? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6. And then mix and match, kind of like what I did at the end there. Now you may have noticed that I departed from the ostinato roll in my left foot at the end of that phrase, And this is a way to also create interest. Is most of the time we have two of our limbs maintaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that unending, immutable, constant ostinato that doesn't change. But we might mix it up occasionally, especially at the end of a phrase, to create a sense of movement. So instead of this being on beat 4, maybe I shift it to another beat. Something like that. So this is something you can do is as you're playing, let's say a 4-bar phrase, the first 3 measures of that phrase, we keep the ostinato the same in the right hand and the left foot. And then at the very end, we change up something in one of those limbs. So on the 4th measure of this 4-measure phrase in 6/8, I'm going to change up the hi-hat pattern to create a sense of movement or shifting to a new phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a really good way to sort of connect the band to the next part of the song, whether it's a new phrase, a new section like a verse to a chorus, etc., etc. Now, one last thing I want to talk about, and this is something that can be a really fun challenge, is that very often as drummers we have certain limbs that are our go-tos for the ostinato part, right? So, for example, right hand, left foot. If you're like me, somebody that plays a lot of jazz and a lot of Latin music, you're used to the right hand, left foot being the motor, right? So like in jazz, right? Right hand and left foot aren't changing. It's the left hand and right foot that are doing all the variation, but those are the ostinato. Now, challenge yourself. Force yourself to have one of those 2 limbs in your 2-limb combination, or it could be both, but I think it's easier to start with one, be your ostinato part. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to limit myself by locking my left hand into an ostinato part. So now what I'm going to do is have the right hand and left hand being the ostinato part. The reason I like to do this, not just in a slow 6/8 blues context, but in a variety of contexts, is because it forces me to create all the variations with my feet. So if I'm doing this for the ostinato, well, I'm kind of locked into that. Anything I want to do as a variation has to come in my right foot, left foot, or combinations of both. So again, start simple and then gradually build from there. This is a great way to really work on your hi-hat coordination, kick drum coordination, and it allows you to actually do more with your feet and come up with some fills and variations that might not be as loud as what you would normally hear. As an example, I'm going to do a simpler thing than what I did, but I'm going to play the verse part of a song where I'm actually going to have 3 of my limbs doing an ostinato, the kick drum in my right foot, rim click in my left hand, and right hand the ride cymbal, all locked into a ostinato, no variations. All my variations have to come with my left foot. Now the left foot can be pretty abrasive and loud and cut through a texture musically and sonically like a knife. But I'm going to do some more subtle closed hi-hat movements here, and then as I get further into the phrase, I'm going to get louder by starting to incorporate my hands and my right foot in the variation roll rather than the ostinato roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. Appreciate y'all's support and hope to see you soon.